Hey there guys, PortalMaster9351 here, and in this video we are going to discuss the future of reposes. So, in the past, and so throughout the history of the game, there have been very many ways of handling reposes. So, I've got before me Gil Grunt, the evolution of Gil Grunt. Gil Grunt is evolving! Gil Grunt evolved into Series 2 Gil Grunt! And then he evolved into Series 3 Gil Grunt. And then Anchors Away Gil Grunt evolved into Tidal Wave Gil Grunt, who evolved into Deep Dive Gil Grunt. And it just keeps going on. The progression of some of these characters, like seriously, does this not just look like an upgrade chain of the same character? I mean, because basically, that's exactly what this is. That's really what's been going on with, excuse me, with Skylanders in terms of reposes. So, Gil Grunt, for example, created in SSA as normal Gil Grunt. Also received a mini. Or, I guess at the time they were called sidekicks. In Giants, he received a Series 2 repose, in which he was just called Series 2 Gil Grunt. Generic Series 2 Gil Grunt. Not like bigger anchor, cool jetpack Gil Grunt. Just called Series 2 blah. And now I'm talking about jetpacks and I'm thinking jetpack. Series 2 Gil Grunt. And then on Swap Force, you called him Anchors Away Gil Grunt. And in Trap Team, you call him Tidal Wave Gil Grunt. And they have specific names that make the characters actually feel more unique. And this guy, they're obviously the same character. These are obviously both Gil Grunt. But this is obviously a different Gil Grunt. And yes, you can tell that with this. But I think that not only having the redesigned figure, that was nice. Not only having the redesigned figure, but also having that new name sort of helps show, hey, this is a different figure. Buy this and buy this. It's new. It's a new thing. I don't have Trap Teams, but Trap Teams was basically the same. It looked very different from the original pose of Gil Grunt. It was obviously still Gil Grunt, though. You couldn't, that was not lost. But, you know, still the general idea of just an upgrade with a new name to show, hey, this is a new character, it's different, buy it. In Superchargers, rather than just calling them Series 2 or Series 3 Anchors Away or Series 4 Tidal Wave, they dropped the naming or the number system entirely and rather strictly went to the naming system. But there was another addition. Not only did the character receive a complete overhaul, but the character was fitted to match the times by being made into a Supercharger. So, what does this have to do with anything? Well, I think that one of their marketing ideas was they like these old characters and they really want to help bring them to new life. But at the same time, they don't want to design completely new characters. And I can totally understand that mentality. And I love this new style of reposes. Personally, I love this new style of reposes. But I think that it speaks to what they're trying to do. They're trying to sell these old characters without having to do as much work. And honestly, I mean, I can't blame them for that, and I'm still enjoying these new characters. They play like totally different characters, and I enjoy them. But that's enough about my personal thoughts. We're talking about factual repose styles. But anyways, totally redesigned. And this shows that this character is the same as this character, but does this guy look anything like this guy beyond the body shape? No. They are obviously Gil Grunt. But beyond the name, are they the same? Not really. They are not really the same at all. And I think that really shows just the differences and how they have kind of progressed in terms of reposes. But what does this have to do with the future? Well, in Superchargers, rather than just being made into a Series 5 Gil Grunt, which would be absolutely insane to call him a Series 5 Gil Grunt, they dropped the naming system. And that's the important part here. They dropped the naming system. Now, I want you to envision Skylanders surviving for another 20, let's just say 10 years. We're on to Skylanders 12. Gil Grunt missed 4 games. He wasn't reposed in 4 games, but now they're going to repose him for the 8th time. Are you really going to be enticed to get a Series 8 Gil Grunt? Or are you going to want Super Mega Ultra Jetpack Water Blast Trident Slam Gil Grunt? You're going to want the second one. You're going to want the one with the totally awesome name and the totally updated figure. Honestly, by the time we get to that point where we've got like a Skylanders 12 or something like that, this guy is going to have been like forgotten at that point. By the time there are 12 Skylanders games, completely and totally forgotten. But it will live on. in a new, modified way. And I think that that's how they're going to continue to handle repos. I don't see the naming system coming back. Or the number system. I keep saying naming system. I mean number system. I don't see, if Gil Grunt gets a repose in Skylanders 6, he will not be called Series 6 Gil Grunt. I can almost guarantee that. If they do return to the naming system, I can also almost guarantee you that Gil Grunt, Jetvac, Stealth Elf, Pop Fizz, Trigger Happy, Roller Brawl, Terrafin, and Lava and Eruptor do not get reposes. I can almost guarantee that to you. If they do get reposes, though, in the next game, in 6, and they don't bring back the naming system, but they do repose these characters, they probably also will not be reposed as cores. I don't see these guys going back to being cores, and I don't see reposes ever going back to being cores again. I think that in the future, all old characters can be updated to become new characters. What does this mean? This is actually huge. If this theory is right, then it could mean a lot of major changes for Skylanders 6. These characters were non-gimmick core characters that were changed into gimmick characters. I was making a video earlier, and I was talking about core characters and how I wanted them to come back. And then midway through that video, my entire view on this matter changed. We are probably never going to have core characters again. We are probably only going to have gimmick characters. Why? Well, it allows them to take old characters and overhaul them, A, and B, just entice people to buy them. If Skylanders Warriors really is the 6th game and swappable weapons are a thing, then we could potentially see, like, Trigger Happy, for instance, becoming a warrior that can now wield all these different weapons. That might be a bit of a stretch, but we could see Whamshell or Voodoo become these new characters. And this also means that we could see, I think, old gimmick characters return as new reposes. I honestly think that if this theory is right, we could see old gimmick characters become revitalized as new gimmick characters. We could actually see, it sounds far-fetched, dual gimmick characters. That one might be going a little too far. We may never see Swap Force reposed as the new gimmick characters just because they are such a unique character that has to be swapped around and stuff. But I do think that that we could see Superchargers reposed in the future because Gil Grunt is a Supercharger and they don't leave Gil Grunt out of the game because Gil Grunt is God, and Gil Grunt is adored by every single human being on this planet. Everyone loves Gil Grunt, at least in Activision, Toys for Bob, and Vicarious Vision's mind. Everybody loves Gil Grunt, and we should put Stealth Elf in all Vicarious Vision starter packs. Can you tell I'm a little frustrated with the constant reposing of Gil Grunt and Stealth Elf? But at the same time, if these characters, excuse me, are going to get reposed every single time, they need to be overhauled in some way, and I think they kind of caught on to that with Superchargers, and I think that this was their trial run. My understanding is that these guys sold well. I think a lot of people picked up the new reposed returning Superchargers, and I actually think that really bodes well for new characters returning in some other fashion as new updated characters. Down the line, we could see, I don't know, let's just say we could see, like, Bumble Blast, for instance, as, like, a gimmick character in Skylanders 7. We could see that, people. I am really convinced of that. Because the moment that this guy gets another repose, or any of those other 8 or 7 characters that I mentioned gets a repose, we've now proven it's possible to repose gimmick characters. In the past, they haven't done that because they don't want to draw away from the new gimmick. But they kind of work their way around that by updating it to the gimmick. They can work around paying, too much attention to older styles if they update the style. That is something that is totally possible. You see pop stars, you see all sorts of, like, celebrities out there. Do they keep their same style? Does one band stay the same for, like, their whole career? They might stay true to some of their basic natures, like their genre as a whole. Like a rock band is probably going to stay a rock band their whole career, but their overall style may change if they're together for like 20 years. They may be like really synth heavy in their early years, and then as they sort of near the end of their 20-year run, they change into some other sort of like guitar or drum heavy band, right, and like use less synth. And I think that can be applied to the Superchargers, or the Skylanders figures in general. We could see a basic Gil Grunt design show up as a Gimmick character in Skylanders 8, or something like that. I don't think that's that far-fetched, because they have already shown that something can become a Gimmick character. Now the only question is, can a Gimmick character become something else? Because if the lore stays canon, if there is a continuous lore, then how does Gil Grunt and the other 7 lose their Superchargers abilities and become something else? I don't know. I don't know how that's possible. But I definitely think that if Gil Grunt as a Supercharger can get reposed again, so can Cyclops. But anyways, that's all for now. Talking about the future of reposes in Skylanders 6 and beyond. This has been Portal Master 9351. Remember to check out my social media in the description. Also, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye!